Quick reminder that the description has a link to a resource website that you can use to help contribute to ongoing Black Lives Matter organizations. You can do a myriad of things like donate to bail funds or sign petitions, all of which go a long way to fighting systemic racism. Thank you very much for your time. Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and a big warm welcome to all our new arrivals. Yes, we've reached the 600 subscriber milestone, and it's thanks to all of you. From those who've just joined in, to those who've stuck with me all this time. I find it hard to overstate just how much each new member helps with achieving my dreams, so once again, a big heartfelt thank you goes out to each and every one of you. So, as tradition dictates, it's time for the appropriately celebratory subscriber special, presenting GoldenNova's top 10 monsters with 600 attack points. But first, some housekeeping. To keep this video compliant with the rules and regulations laid out by the Online Opinions Protection Services, OOPS requires me to preface any top 10 video with the disclaimer that the content, and the sequencing thereof, is based solely on my own opinion. While power level and historical context do play a part in said opinion, it'll be rated alongside other ephemeral qualities, like silliness, coolness, and how many points they've scored across various Guess This Anime Opening Song YouTube compilations. Also, quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. These videos are a celebration of how far we've come, and there's still a long way to go yet. Thank you very much for your help, and with that out of the way, let's move on to the list. Honorary mention, Necro Gardna. Oh, attack negation, how I hate thee. Let me count the ways. Okay, to be fair, it's not as bad as it used to be, but when Lightsworns and assorted dark good stuff decks were around, this little fella was an anathema to gladiator beasts. Oh yes, I would love to run over your Armageddon Knight to get my plays going. Not. But despite my misgivings, Necro Gardna has earned my grudging respect, not only for the effective barriers it put in my way, but also because it was part of a big push towards using the graveyard as a resource. Special summon swarming was not as common in the age of good ol' undead Big Shield Gardna here, so a lot of times, keeping a monster safe from battle could really mean the difference between winning and losing. It was like getting a free card, by way of just not losing it in the first place. Which is a hard concept to grapple with nowadays when other dark warriors like Phantom Knights can just get you card advantage by actually getting you a fresh card. It's a vestige of a long lost age of dueling, but at least it'll always find work in the field of hair metal bands. Look at those luscious locks! Number 10. Black Metal Dragon. I'm of the opinion that Red Eye's Black Dragon has been unfairly treated by the development team. As far as themes associated with characters from the source material go, Trickstar, Goki, Pendulum Magician, and most importantly Blue Eyes have all had pretty significant impacts on the competitive landscape. And while Dark Magician wasn't exactly a consistent top 8 contender, they've still been getting better support cards than Joey's Ace Monster, and part of that is because it's got a bit of an identity crisis. Some cards help set up rank 7 Xyz plays, others care about Gemini and normal monsters, there are some that focus on burn damage, and others that focus on equip cards. It's all over the place. And while the imminent release of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon will certainly increase the amount of copies of OG Red Eyes being played, it's not even a required material in the fusion that's supposed to be a testament to the friendship between Yugi and Joey. But that being said, no matter what support we get in the future, any appropriately named support is a normal summon away with Black Metal Dragon. Even if you don't have a Red Eyes monster to attach it to from hand, a Salamangreat Almirage in the extra converts it into any follow-up card you could ever want, which also includes Red Eye's Fusion, which means that the same decks that are running Dragoon can just run this as a backup way to get to Fusion. You know, between this and Numeron Network, you ever wish we had a stronger limiting mechanic like Pokemon or Magic, so we couldn't just shove all the best crazy good generic cards into the same deck? Number 9. Gem Knight Lazuli. Of all the archetypes to come out of the Dual Terminal saga, Gem Knights are one of the most successful. As far as I can remember, Gem Knight Fusion is one of the first fusion spells to start cheating card advantage by letting you banish any Gem Knight monster in your grave to return it to your hand. But while you can use your spent Knights to get back your fusion enabler, you kind of need materials to fuse with. That's where Lazuli comes in. With the majority of Gem Knights being either normal or Gemini monsters, using Lazuli as material will likely buy back its companion material for later use. And since it cares about normal monsters, you can use it in a variety of situations. A fun application was when Brilliant Fusion was available, using Lazuli and Blue Eyes White Dragon to make a Seraphonite, then adding the dragon back to your hand so you can pair it with your alternatives and your trade-ins. But it's more likely you'll know them for their role in Gem Knight FTK, helping to keep the gears oiled so you can pump out as much burn damage as possible, which is Weird considering they're rocks and not pyros, so unless there's some kind of igneous rock here, it's a huge breach in typing. Number 8. White Stone of Ancients. Making a pseudo-return to the top 10 series, White Stone of Ancients has earned its place as a staple in Blue Eyes decks for its ability to summon powerful options out of your deck, or recover those same cards on following turns. The problem with building a deck around high-level normal monsters is that they tend to moonlight as construction workers because they're just a ton of bricks waiting to happen. Ancients does an exceptional job of mitigating this, not only allowing you to call it a big ol' 3000 attack beatstick, it also gives you access to very effective back row removal by way of Dragon Spirit of White, or effect negation with Blue Eyes Solid Dragon. And not content to just summon them, you can banish Ancients from your grave to put any of those cards in your grave back to your hand, giving you more access to the combos that make Kaiba's big field of big wumpuses possible. Now if only you could summon Kaiba's bank account too. That'd be great. Number 7. Spell Striker. Aw man, I remember this little tabletop miniature. In the anime, Jaden used this to great effect, comboing it with Armor Breaker as a roundabout way of card removal, but history shows that not many people would follow in the footsteps of Slifer Red's Ace Duelist. Two big ways that people could use Spell Striker was as easy tribute fodder and excellent Xyz material. I was personally a big fan of using it in Monarchs, before we got all the megas and the domains and all that. Turning spells that put the gas in your tank into tribute fodder meant that Ryza could hit the field at the drop of a hat, and it feels pretty good to force your opponent to fade a draw step. It was also a fun way to make cards like Wind Up Zenmains and Giga Brilliant, but you know what's really crazy? This warrior monster is more effective at making Millier of the Trees than an actual plant deck. Yes, I'm still mad about that! Number 6. Psychic Wheeleder. But if Spell Striker was the rank 3 Xyz material of choice of a bygone era, then Psychic Wheeleder is its modern counterpart. If your deck runs level 3 monsters, then you're going to want to keep this tuner of the future in mind. It's absolutely hilarious to me that this card is clearly meant to be Synchro support. I mean, it blows up a monster when used as Synchro material, for crying out loud. But when you get to summon it for free in the exact way that would facilitate an Xyz summon, well, let's just say I never regretted running it in Burning Abyss. I suppose its partner's Psychic Tracker can go here too. Technically, not the right attack power for the list, but when used as Synchro material, it gives the monster a 600 attack boost, so it kinda counts. Anyway, it was nice seeing you, Tracker. Hopefully we'll see it in another 1,000 subscribers. Number 5. Test Tiger. I can trace my love for TCG exclusives back to this card right here. When you play card games in high school, the people you duel against tend to get a feel for what you play pretty quickly. And since your relative meta is pretty narrow, they can build specifically to beat you. So when you try to play the Battle Matters deck for any period of time, the Sakuretsu Armors and the Threatening Roar start showing up. And that's why Tony here is so important. By letting you trigger a G-Beast effect during your main phase, you can set yourself up a turn early to go into your big plays. Get a Bestiari to clear out some threatening back row, or get a Darius to summon a Yarded Bestiari to make the original super-powered Dark Winged Beast, Guy Xeris. And low-key, one of my favorite plays was dropping a live Sekitor onto the field when it was least expected and go completely off. It was so fun. As far as support cards go, it's not good, it's great! Number 4. Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion. I never thought tokens would be this powerful. Granted, they have a lot of new infrastructure that got them there, but if you told me a while ago that tokens would play a huge part in how boards are built nowadays, I'd have told you that you're crazy, you can't even use Hippo tokens for anything, and they're the best token generator we've ever had. Now quiet down, they're about to announce the new Master Rule 4 changes. But in all seriousness, as links got better and better, and their materials became more and more generic, O-Lion began sprouting up in more and more deck lists as an easy way to extend your link ladder, and all of this came to a head with the release of Crystron Halka Fibrax. Watching pilots go from summoning O-Lion off the Tuner Tutor's effect to summoning Despot 1 instead, only to use the Auroradon later in the combo to summon O-Lion at that point, just to use it as a tuner as well as getting the free token, was like a horrifying piece of art. The imagery offends the senses, but the craft, the artistry, it's sublime. And with no effective ban list on the horizon, well, here's hoping O-Lion takes after its card art and gets jettisoned into orbit so we don't have to deal with it anymore. Also, Banjet Synchron. Number 3. Neo-Spacian Aqua Dolphin. It is so surprising to see just how relevant Aqua Dolphin ended up being in, well, any competitive context. Sure, A lot of its power derived from being a warrior you could go into with Neo-Space Connector for sick Isolde plays, but it ended up being much more than that. The effect to rip a monster out of your opponent's hand based on the highest attack of monsters you controlled felt like a cruel joke when paired with the alien animals. Their attacks all naturally peak at 1000, with only Flare Scarab having the potential to go any higher. But all of that got flipped on its head after the proliferation of hand traps, the powerful interaction tool that, on average, had very, very little attack. Now, your opponent was forced to ash the Neo-Space Connector, or else risk losing it for no value, almost guaranteeing that the rest of your plays would resolve with no interruption. And if they just so happen to have something like Impermanence in hand, well, Aqua Dolphin gives you perfect knowledge of your opponent's hand, so you can move forward with your turn knowing exactly what they're capable of while they're still in the dark. So, despite its humble origins, Aqua Dolphin's effect is truly out of this world. Number 2, Herald of the Arclight. When I think of two mechanics that go well together, Ritual and Synchro Summoning are not the first that come to mind. Both require such heavy investment that it feels like their play sequences are mutually exclusive. But this member of the Herald family manages to bridge the gap quite effectively. Being able to search any Ritual card while enabling the summon of Necrods of Unicorn is an astoundingly powerful combo. But as we get closer to the modern competitive scene, it's changed from being an extender to a full-on floodgate. Banishing any monster sent from the hand or deck to the grave is a death sentence for most themes, paralyzes a lot of hand traps, and sends everything else to a far-off realm where you'll never see them again. And if you try to do anything to negate or destroy it, it can just act as an omni-negate. This has become a sinister mode of suppression once Adamancipator became more refined, making a board rife with resiliency and negates even stickier. And if you wanted to be cheeky, you could even add a copy of Seravis to your deck to give yourself even more protection once the Herald left the field. But if Herald of the Arclight has had such a history of bolstering some of the most powerful decks of all times, elevating them to even greater heights, then what could possibly be at the very top? Number 1. Future-proofing your design gets more difficult the longer your game is around. We've had quite a few cards on this very list that were duds on release, but ended up being ridiculously broken because of their interactions with future releases. But of all the cards on this list, Wheeleder is the only one on the ban list, and for very, very good reason. One imagines that the primary use of this ladybug of levels was to ease the usage of early synchro monsters that required at least 2 non-tuner material. After all, being level 1, literally taking one level from a larger monster and splitting it off into its own creature basically negated that restriction. But then synchro tuners came along and recontextualized all that. The most egregious offender was Assault Blackwing Sohaya the Rainstorm. If you summoned Gofu and had the Wheeleder in grave, you could have it eat a level off of Gofu, synchro for Sohaya, eat the level off the now tunerized synchro, make a second Sohaya, which would in turn summon the first Sohaya back to the field. It was stunning seeing the amount of cards you could draw with a paired Hyper Librarian. And this card was legal when links were introduced. For 6 months, Dark Synchro's evolution, Dark Linkro, wasn't largely competitive, but it was always at the fringes, waiting to mire you in card advantage, giant negation bodies, and decks then down to just 10 cards after a resolved combo. Thankfully, it was banned in February of 2018, just as Link Karibo was entering legality, and we haven't seen hide nor hair of it since. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has increasingly become a game where levels are only contextually important, and cards like Wheeleder take advantage of an oft underutilized mechanic. And since it ends up being so easily abusable in decks that dare to count to 5, it's likely we'll never see this cute little buggy in competition ever again. So, because of its power and its legacy, I'm proud to announce that Wheeleder is the absolute best monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! With 600 attack. And that's the list. Do you have any monsters you feel should have made the cut? Maybe one you feel should have been ranked higher or lower? And is there anything you're looking forward to seeing in the future on the channel? Let me know in the comments, and once again, a big thank you to everyone who stuck around with me so far. Every day there are people out there who see what I'm doing and want to help, and that does a good for me that I don't know if I'll ever be able to properly express. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.